Well, hello everyone. I just wanted to give you some insights about this simulation that I provided. The simulation was developed by a friend of mine, Juan Torbiso. He studied at Stanford University, an MBA specialized in finance, and he was a genius in creating these models. And I helped him with all the intellectual side, especially from the strategic side. So the simulation is 100% consistent with all the ideas that we use in this class. When you open, it asks about macros. You have to allow the macros, otherwise you won't be able to serve the simulation. The first thing that you have to do is, before doing anything, is go to instructions. Okay, go to instructions. Okay. Instructions, read them, so you have like some basic ideas how to use it. It's not a big deal. But one of the instructions is that you have to enable the manual calculation. So you have to go to File. In File, you go to Options. Options, you go to Formulas. And in Formulas, put in manual calculation. The simulation is already manual calculation, but maybe in your computer you have in automatic. That is the normal thing. Keep it in manual. And the reason is because when you start uploading the data, and if it is in automatic, most likely the simulation will collapse, because you will start putting things that are inconsistent, and the simulation will calculate before you really want to calculate. So make sure you put it in manual. Let me show you what is the purpose before you start putting in any data inside. Let's go here to results. So once you finish, you will have the income statement here. You see revenues, expenses, etc. Then you have the balance sheet, same thing. Assets, liabilities, whatever. Then you have a cash flow, which is interesting in the case of projects. Then you have the calculation of the WACC, the weighted average cost of capital. That's something that you need that for the EVA. Then the simulation calculates the value of the company by using the DCF, the discounted cash flow. And right underneath, you have the same using the EVA. So you have both ways, the DCF and the EVA. And the neat thing is that you can see something that is interesting, that the value that the system calculates or assess for the value of the company is identical using DCF. You see here 317,029, than using EVA 317,029. So it gives you some power to the EVA. It's not just a theoretical thing. No, it's a model that helps really to calculate the value of the company. The next thing that is interesting for you is all the graphs. The first graph is the graph that we use during the class, that you have the EVA underneath in the horizontal axis, and the growth of sales, or growth of operating capital, that you have on the vertical axis. And here you have the EVA for all the years. So it starts on the year 2018, that is the one that I just put, and will end in the next 20 years. So you see how the EVA is going to evolve during the next years. This is something interesting. If while you start doing your data input, you realize that these graphs disappear, you have to come here to Control. And in Control, you will see that you will have many options, like divided by 0 or whatever. The way to fix it is click on Fix It. Fix It is a one equation that my friend Juan developed, that automatically rebuilds the model if you can. Sometimes you cannot do it. Sometimes if it is too messy, there's nothing you can do. So hopefully that doesn't happen. If that happens, you will have to start again. And so hope it doesn't do. Remember that you put everything in manual calculation. So once you put any data and you are convinced that the data is correct, click on F9, so the system recalculates. Okay, let's come back to the graphs. The first graph is the EVA and the growth, sales growth. The second is the evolution of the market value of the companies. This should be the real value. And if the simulation is done correctly, this number today should be the same that you can find in these websites that we use, Yahoo Finance or Bloomberg or whatever, or Morningstar or whatever. So this should be exactly the same. I see how the stock value of the company will grow in the future. And the next slide, the next is the physical capital here. Well, you can navigate by yourself, or you can use the main menu, no? But it's the same. Physical capital, it gives you some. It should always grow, but it shouldn't grow too much, because otherwise the physical capital, remember, is like an anchor. So too much physical capital kills the company. And then you have the intellectual capital. Remember the market value minus operating capital. So the market value minus book value, remember that we use it. It gives you an idea of how much intellectual capital the company has. In the case of Microsoft, it's gigantic. So in the market value, you see that the value of the company is almost 300 billion, and the intellectual capital is 265, whatever. So that you see that clearly Microsoft has a lot of intellectual capital. Remember that I told you that it has a strong market power. Consequently, the book value is probably 30 times larger than the market value is probably 20-30 times larger than the book value, and you see that here. So the book value is the physical capital is exactly $28 billion, and the intellectual capital is you see here $265 billion. So you realize clearly that this company is basically intellectual capital. Okay, so now you can come back to the main menu. Go, and we will have to go through data input to upload all the different numbers in the simulation. First, you come to revenues. You have always two ways to because remember it's a simulation, so this is for the next years. So you have to upload the data for the current year, 2018 in this case, and you can change it if you want to change to put a different year, 2017 or whatever. Put 2017, and after that click on F9 and recalculates all the years, you see. So we can keep whatever data you want. So come back here. So we have the revenues. You have two ways to upload the data. One is using growth, which is very simple, because you always remember to put the numbers in the gray areas. Don't put in the white areas, because they break the simulation. So don't touch the white, unless you feel very, very comfortable that you can touch the equations. You can do it, but be careful, because you can break all the simulation. So use only the gray area. So you put here the historical level of sales. You can have several products. Here you can put product 1, 2, 3, 4, as many as you want. And then you, for the projection, you have to plug in here the sales growth for the next years. And sales growth will go together with the growth of the operating capital if all the numbers that you did are correct. Another way to create these income revenues is using prices and quantities. So you have to click here, P and Q, and use this part here of the model, in which you will have to put here the price and the quantity of the next years. It is more troublesome, but in some cases you may prefer to do it to see exactly how your marketing strategy in terms of how many products are you going to sell, whatever. It takes more time, but in some cases you have to do it. For the most cases, I recommend that you use growth, not P and Q, because it's a lot of work. Okay, you can go by yourself, go to the next, that is other income. Same thing, you can put here the historical, that is 2017, and then for the next years you use the percentages on sales. So all the simulation runs on percentages on revenues. Look here at here. But you can also put here the values, the real values. So you have two options. You can put the values and come here and put all the values. So you have both options. The easiest way is to put the percentage of revenue. So that is going to simplify your life tremendously. Go underneath, you put the cost. Make sure that the costs are not too high, because if the costs exceed revenues, the simulation is going to collapse, because the company cannot exist, a company in which the costs and the expenses exceed the revenues. So nothing is going to work. It's the same with expenses. You put here the historical expenses, and here you put the percentages of revenues. So of the general expenses. So you can change year by year. So here is 29%, but you can change. You can do it manually. Then you have to upload all the balance sheet. The balance sheet is very much created as a banker. So you look at all the different ratios, cash, credit, inventories, etc. That is basically created once you upload all the historical balance sheet of the last couple of years. Remember that in balance you need 2 years, because you need to know what is the evolution, and especially everything that is related to depreciations. Assets, liability, investments, same thing. You have to put investments here always as a percentage of revenues. Makes your life substantially easier. You put historical data, and you have to put the current depreciation, and the system calculates all the rest. And you can change it. So you can change the life. In this case, the life of all the assets is 25 years. You can put more or less according to your industry. Here you put the capital expenditures in terms of percentage of revenues. And this is interesting because you can play with that. And it forces to be realistic. You cannot put a number that is too low, especially depending on the industry. Then you put intangible assets. In some companies it is important, Coca-Cola, whatever, the intangible assets are gigantic. Maybe in your project it's not, but most of the times intangible assets like goodwill is relevant. Then you have to go to taxes. This is very easy, just put the current taxes. Then you go to the way you plan to finance the project. Once again, you put here what is the leverage that you plan the company is going to have, and the short-term versus long-term debt. Then you have the equity, so how much capital do you plan to inject? And then you come to the core, that is the WACC, the weighted average cost of capital, that is important in order to assess the value of the company. So if these blue boxes bother you, just put them out or delete them, whatever. You can delete them if you want. But what they have to put is the beta. Remember that we work with the beta. We went to Yahoo Finance, and there you found the beta. You have to put the beta. That is the real beta. You have to put the risk-free rate. It depends. Sometimes it's higher, it's lower. Today it's a little bit lower, because you know that last couple of years the Fed had a lower, especially after the crisis of 2008. But normally it's a number that is around 4%, 5%, or whatever. Then you have the country risk. If you go to foreign countries, you need to Google what is the country risk for this country. Normally is, depending on the country, can be 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever. If you are in the US, the country risk is 0. But if you go to other countries, the country risk can be 1%, 2%, 3%, or even much higher, can be 10% or 15% if the country is in really bad shape. Then you have to put the market cap of the company. In the case of real companies, you can take the market cap from Yahoo Finance or Morningstar or anyone. What is the market cap today? That is the real value of the company. If not, you will have to put any number, but it doesn't matter the number that you put, because the simulation only takes this number as a reference, but it's going to recalculate the real number. But you have to put something. It's like a seed, so the simulation can run adequately. So hope it works. Remember very much all the risk that the simulation collapses, but you have to come here to the control and come to fix it, and then you can fix it. Well, hope you enjoy. It's a neat exercise. Bye bye.